Hello, everybody. Happy holidays and welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, happy holidays, my brother.
Happy holidays, my brother. How are you today?
Oh, I'm excited for this week in football.
I'm excited for every week in football, but you know what? Playoffs are here. It's in the air. It's coming. I love it. I love it.
Oh, man, with the playoffs in the air, every game is going to be crucial, and we have a lot of good games going into this holiday weekend. But before we do that, let's go over our weekly recap and go over the games that happened in week 15 before we move on to week 16. You ready for that?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
So, starting off with the Thursday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Los Angeles Chargers 34-28. Your thoughts on that game?
Barn burner of a game.
Didn't we call it too?
We almost called that game to a T as to what was going to happen. It was going to be. I thought it was going to be a shootout. It wasn't a shootout, quote unquote. It wasn't guns blazing where everyone's just throwing bombs. But the score was a high scoring game. We kind of called between 30 and 35 points being scored.
Yeah.
And we also, unfortunately, you and I both agreed that the last possession of the game was going to be the win, and the Chargers being with their erratic play is going to cost them, and it cost them big time.
I gotta say, for that game, really did call out as we predicted. I said that game was going to be a chess match, and whoever was going to have the ball last was going to win the game. And ultimately, Travis Kelce was the one who had the ball last, and he said, "Good night."
Yes, he did. He said, "We're going home."
So, with that being said, we're going to move on to the Saturday night game, which is the New England Patriots against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Colts beat the Patriots 27-17, but it was 20-0 going into the fourth quarter. That was all in garbage time, all those points by the Patriots. But your thoughts in that game?
Jonathan Taylor. That's anytime that the Colts are spoken about, you have to throw his name in the hat. He's just bewildering when it comes to a running back. He's another breed. We're seeing another breed of running in this league come, and it's true power running, and it's making defenses confused. They don't know what to do anymore. And Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, and the list goes on as to true power, like people who can throw their shoulder down, run north-south, and blow up a defense, bring contact to the defense. They don't know what to do, and I love it.
Oh, man. We asked the question before last week, can the Patriots stop Jonathan Taylor? The answer was no.
Hell no.
So, with that being said, we're going to move on to Sunday's games, starting with the Miami Dolphins coming away with a strong victory over the New York Jets. The Jets made it a competitive game, but the Dolphins won 31-24. Man, Dolphins just keep rolling. Is there a chance for them to make the playoffs?
Yeah, they are still in the hunt. They have won 6 straight. I called them probably about 2 or 3 games into their 6-game win streak that defense is alive. There's something going on in that defense. I love Brian Flores. I love what he's doing with that team. Tua is really, when he's healthy, he's really something to behold. I feel he's going to be a really stout quarterback in the league. He just needs to get his injuries in order.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see where Miami is going with this.
Absolutely. We were talking about Miami earlier in the year when they were struggling. Now Brian Flores, he's like, hey, guys, we got to get it together. And they are on such a roll, and it's so great to see. But we're going to be moving on to another Sunday game. The other New York team that lost, the New York Giants, fell to the Dallas Cowboys 21-6. Dallas has been struggling on offense, but their defense has been getting it done. How deep do you think they can go in the playoffs?
I want to see them win one. I want to see them win a playoff game before going anywhere else. It's been a long time since we've watched Dallas win a single playoff game. They've been notorious for getting to the playoffs, losing in one round. They're the first round sickness that they have. I want to see if they can brush that off this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty apparent that they're probably going to clinch their division this upcoming week. So I want to see them get past the first round.
I do too. So let's move on to probably the upset of the week. The Detroit Lions upsetting the Arizona Cardinals 30-12. The Arizona basically just did not have any chance in that game. Once the Detroit Lions picked off Kyler Murray, Woo, it was good night, Irene.
Yeah, Arizona didn't really show up, but the turning point really was that interception on Detroit where the safety came from about 12 yards behind a receiver, came for a diving grab and then ran it back to think about the 5-yard line.
It was great.
It was such a deflating offensive drive to begin with, and then it ended with something like that. The momentum shift, that's something you don't come back from, especially when you're already down. It was a it was still a manageable game, but you were already down, and then they wound up scoring again off of that. So Arizona didn't really show up, but I wouldn't bat your eye too much as to what these competitive games from Detroit are against the better teams. They're one of those teams, they're like Philly, where they're just going to harass you all game. So that's going to be in, but it seems like there might be a little beacon of light in Detroit. They're starting to get some players in the right spots to make plays, i.e., that young little running back.
Oh, Craig Reynolds.
Craig Reynolds, 112 yards receiving. First time a Detroit Lion has done that since the 50s. And that's also counting Barry Sanders.
Well, 100 yards
in his debut game.
Yeah, 100 yards rushing in his debut game.
Yes.
So, so he's a player to keep an eye on. Craig Reynolds for the Detroit Lions. But hey, I gotta say there is some hope for Detroit fans out there. So, don't poo-poo the Lions because there's some hope there.
They're still professionals and they're going to play professional, but they are one of those historically bad teams that really all you can look for is moral victories. And, the moral victory here is that 8 of their games that they've played have come within a possession.
Well, it was 8 of their games they either won, tied, or lost within a possession.
Okay.
So those are 8 games that obviously minus the 2 wins, and that's 6 games right there that you could have won.
That are winnable,
games
and
right there.
All against competitive teams.
So there is some hope for Detroit fans out there. But let's move on to the Carolina Panthers falling to the Buffalo Bills 31-14. It just seemed business as usual for the Bills, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. That was kind of another breath of fresh air, like a palate cleansing game for Buffalo. Had a bad taste in their mouth. They haven't been playing well. And then, they come into the enigma that is Carolina, with Cam Newton at the helm. And here it is. Josh Allen's better.
Well, we knew that going in.
Yeah.
But let's move on to your Pittsburgh Steelers coming away with a win over the Tennessee Titans 19-13. Now, you and I both called the Steelers to win that, but tell me, what do you think has happened to Tennessee that they've been struggling as of late?
Their whole morale has shifted. I don't know, honestly. I haven't looked very far into what's going wrong in Tennessee, but they are, again, the beginning of this season, they were playing just well enough to continue their stature as the division leaders. We all kind of saw that one coming with Derrick Henry coming out. Then the injury happened. They were winning without him, and then they started playing just well enough to win games, but a lot of teams that are better than them just started playing worse, so they started rising in the ranks. That's kind of what I saw happening. And now it seems like they're turned into a team that went from playing to win to playing not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good feel going into the postseason.
Absolutely not. You don't want to be walking into these playoffs. You want to be running and having the momentum going into these playoffs. So keep an eye out for Tennessee. They may be in, but they may not even win a game.
They might not be in to win.
But we'll see. We'll see how the bracket plays out within the next coming weeks. Moving on to some other AFC South teams. The Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 30-16.
Who cares?
Okay, then.
They're both out of the playoffs. We don't even need to really discuss that. They both have a slew of issues. Urban Meyer's now fired, not being paid for the rest of the season because he's a jerk off. But I don't know. But now, want to hear a funny notion? Guess who gets the first overall pick this year?
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 weeks to shake up. So if they keep losing and other teams like Detroit keep winning, then yeah, that's a shoo-in.
Right. But Detroit isn't a rollover on your back team unless they're really going over, like they're losing every game.
If the Jags win one more game, they may get out of that first overall. And I think that interim head coach, whoever that is, they're probably just like, we can't be winning any more games. We need this pick. We're the Jags. We live for this pick.
But if they do get the first pick, where do they go?
That's a question. That's a question for another day, friend.
I agree. We're going to keep that one in the air, though. If they do get the first pick, where do they go?
We're going to continue that at another time. But moving on to some more games on Sunday, San Francisco came away with a strong win over the Atlanta Falcons, 31-13. Man, does anyone want to face San Francisco in the playoffs?
Absolutely not. They're a menace. They're a menace in the NFC. They're really just going to come in and stir the pot. You know, that's one of those teams where it's for 60 minutes they're going to be in your face, and if you don't show up, they're going to hurt you. You know, Atlanta is a tough football team. They have a bunch of issues. It looked like they didn't show up.
So, with that being said, let's move on to another game. The Cincinnati Bengals coming away with a win over the Denver Broncos, 15-10. It was a very low-scoring affair, but the Bengals did enough to slug it out. Your thoughts on that?
You know, I hate Cincinnati's the better team. They're better than Denver. You know, there's again that connection between Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. You can't not look at it. Their running back, pretty sure it's still Giovanni Bernard.
No, Gio Bernard is on Tampa now, but they have Melvin Gordon and
Gordon.
Williams.
Williams. Very solid. Cincinnati moved up to the 4th seed in the AFC with that win.
Yeah, that came right at a loss to my Baltimore Ravens. We lost to the Green Bay Packers 31-30. And I got to say this.
See what you did?
Yeah. I don't like seeing the Bengals in the playoff bracket, let alone with our division
so
in their
wide
hands.
Open.
How dare they?
No. How dare they? Look at what you did.
That's true. We've been playing like shit as of late. So, but I got to say, I'm actually concerned for John Harbaugh. I think this man may have testicular cancer. The reason I say that is because that's 2 games where he was like, you know, we could either tie it or go for overtime. Nah, we're going to go for it. So I think the size of this man's balls is so out of proportion that I am actually concerned for John Harbaugh. So please get yourself checked and just go for the PAT and go for overtime because Tyler Huntley was playing very well. We had the momentum, and I trust Tucker to make that and tie it rather than put it right there on the line. But my skin crawls just thinking about it.
I mean, when it comes to that, that's another situation of can you trust giving Aaron Rodgers the ball in overtime?
Yeah,
you know, that's the same situation that came into that Arizona Green Bay game a couple weeks back where it's we can't trust that. We got to go for it now. And they ultimately lost in the end zone.
That's true.
You know, that's the same exact situation. And at that point, I can't help but respect it because you can't give that man another chance because he will score on you. And if you're in a sudden death situation, that's not good.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers to be the last person with the ball in his hands. That's a recipe for disaster. But let's move on. Speaking of disaster, let's move on to the Sunday night game, the primetime game. New Orleans Saints shut out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 9-0. The first time ever Tom Brady has been shut out at home.
Yeah, first time in 15 years he's been shut out at all.
Which is unbelievable to think about. But man, the Saints got it done.
Saints always get it done.
Against Brady, yeah. That seems to be his kryptonite.
I don't understand how Sean Payton just has him beat. Doesn't matter who he has in his lineup, he has Tom Brady. It's okay. He's like, I got it.
Well, what the Saints were doing, and we're not going to get too much into it, but what they were doing was they were establishing pressure with just 4 men at the line of scrimmage. Got to give a shout out to Cam Jordan. He played unbelievable that game. He's an animal.
He's such an animal.
And I think people sleep on Cam Jordan, number 94 for the Saints. He's
slid under the radar majority of his career. You know, there was one where he made some pretty major waves, but that was also the year that J.J. Watt went off. So all eyes were on J.J. Watt, and he was like, look, I'm over here playing just as great, but cool. Keep your eyes over there. And he's been doing that consistently his entire career. Cam Jordan is one of my favorite defensemen in the league.
He is probably one of the most underrated players in the league when people think of great defensive players. But with that being said, we actually, due to COVID protocol, there was actually a change up in the scheduling of certain games. So this past week, we actually had two Monday night games and two Tuesday games, which was actually pretty interesting. So the first Monday night game was the Las Vegas Raiders against the Cleveland Browns, and Derek Carr coming away with the win, 16-14, with a game-winning drive to set up the field goal. Ooh, are people sleeping on Derek Carr?
People have been sleeping on Derek Carr since he came into the league, and he broke his leg and he was forgotten about. I've been saying for years Derek Carr is a great quarterback. You and I used to go back and forth saying it. He's gotten nothing but consistently better. He is what Baker Mayfield wants to be, which is a succeeding quarterback. As deflated as Vegas are, and they are deflated. I haven't seen many game-winning drives from from Baker Mayfield. He's almost notorious that he can't get it done in the last 2 minutes when it's needed.
Now, let me ask you a question. Between the Raiders and the Browns, who has a better chance to get into the playoffs?
My heart says Vegas, but it seems like it might be Cleveland.
Maybe.
But
there's 3 weeks left.
And Cleveland just dropped to the bottom of our division.
Yes, so there's 3 weeks left, and it's going to come very down to the wire to see who's going to make the playoffs. But with that being said, let's move on to the second Monday night game, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Kirk Cousins only had 87 passing yards, and if you looked at the stats, the Bears actually had a lot of the better stats. They passed more, they ran the ball more, but they gave the Vikings 3 fumbles, and that's going to lose you a tight game. The Vikings ultimately won 17-9, eliminating the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see Chicago go down, but I wanted something that I did see from this game. I'm talking a shot that Justin Fields took by, I think it was Ted Kendricks, the linebacker.
Oh, Eric Kendricks.
Eric Kendricks, yes. Came in and, took this man's head off, literally. And it was pretty sure he was ejected from the game. It was like the early second quarter or late first quarter that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't do that. At Horn, you don't do that. Such a dirty move. Because it was so late, you knew that it was intentional. There was no way you could claim it was an accident. That's why he was ejected.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hate to see people make dirty plays on players because, at the end of the day, they're just athletes trying to just do their job.
Doing a job, trying to go home.
So you hate to see injuries, you hate to see dirty plays, but that's just how it is in the NFL.
Yeah, that was just one of the main things that I saw from Minnesota. I didn't like that very much.
So let's move on to the Tuesday games, with the first game being Washington and Philadelphia coming away with a win, 27-17. Still the best rushing team in the league, 230 plus yards. Nasty.
Yeah, without a doubt, nasty. And they're just inching up the board, man. They are half a game out of the playoffs.
Is there a chance for them to make the playoffs?
Oh yeah. They're a half a game behind Minnesota. I think there is just that chance that Philly could sneak in, just like Minnesota snuck in this week, and now they're on the bracket.
Yep, that is true. So let's move on to the final game for the week, and that was on Tuesday night. It was the Los Angeles Rams coming away with a win over the Seattle Seahawks, 20-10. Man, Seahawks are technically still in it, but
no,
it's looking pretty hopeless for them.
They're not statistically out, but you can tell they're morally defeated. They can't match up to LA. They can't match up to their own division. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, and it's pretty unfortunate. But we'll see. But then we'll have to see what happens in the offseason with Russell Wilson.
We shall see. There's going to be definitely big changes ahead for the Seattle Seahawks going forward. So, with that being said, that was all the action in Week 15. Some great games, a lot of unexpected games. But let's move on to some games that we want to talk about for this holiday weekend. And we're actually going to start with the Thursday night game, and which is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Tennessee Titans.
That's going to be an interesting game. This is going to be the main test for Tennessee to see if they really are where they are in the standings. Like we just said, no one wants to play San Francisco in the playoffs. You shouldn't want to play them now because they are just getting hotter and hotter every week. And Tennessee is still, they're kind of plateaued. So that's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I got to say, the Titans, even though Derrick Henry was such a big loss for them in the year, they're still committing to their identity as a team. They're still trying to get some tough running yards, and they got their running back now. I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Donta Foreman.
Mm.
He's not bad, but he's not Derrick Henry. But you could really see the absence of Derrick Henry really loom over the Tennessee Titans, because you know that if they had him, it would be a completely different team. And I gotta say, Ryan Tannehill has just not been getting it done as of late. He can't do it alone. He definitely needs his partner alongside him. But Tennessee also needs wide receivers. They like, you know who their number one receiver was last week against the Steelers? This kid named
Nick Westbrook.
Nick Westbrook, and I don't know, Ekine. And so Nick Westbrook was their number one wide receiver. Their second wide receiver, Chester Rogers. I don't know who the hell these guys are, but apparently they must be fans that they're like, hey, look, you got a Tennessee jersey on? Yeah, we need wide receivers. Yeah, we need players. We need depth. Come on. So it just seems that for teams going into the playoffs, you do not want to be walking in. You want to go in with momentum. And right now, San Francisco is the team with the momentum, and they have actually been getting good quality wins over some competition. It wasn't too long ago that the San Francisco 49ers beat the Cincinnati Bengals, our division leader,
right,
at this point in time. So, but it's crazy because San Fran just has so much depth in their offense. Obviously, Jimmy G, it's good that he only missed one game this year and he's staying healthy. But man, it is so tough for people to stop Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk.
I love to watch Deebo Samuel work. Man.
Yeah.
I love to watch him work.
They are two wide receivers that they are just nasty, quick, shifty, nasty tandem. And you know who's right in the center, right in the middle of the field catching balls?
George Kittle.
The
single most slept on tight end in the game.
So it's going to be a rough test for Tennessee because who do you double? Do you double Deebo? Okay, then you get George Kittle on one-on-one coverage. Do you double George Kittle? Well, then you get Deebo and Brandon Ayuk single coverage on the outside.
So, you see, I feel like that's actually more of an answerable question in San Fran than most teams. And I'll be honest with you, out of those three, the one person that I would double would be George Kittle all game.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I agree.
Especially when it comes to this defense. Now, hear me out. They have a lot of trouble in the middle. They have no middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Their best pass rusher, I feel, in Tennessee right now is Bud Dupree.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have many. They don't have anybody. Their secondary is really more where they reside. They have a more stout secondary. Deebo has really good route running, but their secondary has really good play recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And Deebo Samuel is more of a to-the-book route runner. He doesn't do any hesitations before doing his moves. He's just clear-cut, I'm going this way, and you're going to have to stop me.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Ayuk, on the other hand, he is that flip side of that coin. He's the one who you're going to watch make all the stutter steps. You're going to watch him hesitate. You're going to watch him make people slip while he's running. He's another dangerous one. But on the other side where he's going to be, pretty sure you have Byard, who has some of the...
Yeah, you have Kevin Byard as the safety for Tennessee.
Right.
So he's going to be the one to really dictate.
He's going to be going after Brandon Ayuk because his play recognition on hesitations are unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that the one-on-one matchup between the safeties of Tennessee and Debo and Brandon Ayuk is going to be more respectable and trustable than keeping Kittle open over the middle.
Yeah, if I were Tennessee, I would agree with you. I would double Kittle, say you can't go in the middle of the field. If you're going to beat us, it's going to be on the outside with the numbers.
You're going to beat us in the air. You're not throwing it down the middle.
Yeah, but it's also tough because that's how you stop just one George Kittle. But they also have a running back, Elijah Mitchell, who's
Oh
actually
my
been putting
God.
in work
Yeah.
for for the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't know what it is. It just seems that San Fran just breeds running backs.
They really do.
They really just breed running backs. And so if you're a running back in the league and you get drafted by San Francisco, you're in good hands.
You're going to be solid.
You're in good hands because they are dedicated to running the ball. And as much as we talk about their playmakers as their wide receivers or tight ends,
they're just special.
they're
Those three.
still a power running team that is still old school in their style.
Listen, man, they picked that energy up when they picked up Frank Gore, and they were like, we're going to latch on to that because that's what works.
And it's sad to see. I mean, Frank Gore's not in the league anymore.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking years ago.
But years ago, that's when they really established their identity as a team where it's like, look, we can be most successful.
That was also the year of NaVorro Bowman.
NaVorro Bowman and Patrick
Willis.
Oh, that was a great 49ers team.
What a defense.
But, man, I got to say, for this game going ahead, it's going to be tough for Tennessee because, I don't know, it just seems that the 49ers just may seem like the healthier team and just the team that's more hungry. Because Tennessee right now, if Tennessee and the Colts were to have the same record at the end of the season, Tennessee would have the tiebreaker over the Colts. Now, the Colts, in order for them to get the division, they would have to be a game ahead of Tennessee. So Tennessee, and within these coming 3 weeks, if they lose 2 out of 3 within these next coming weeks, the Colts may be able to jump ahead of them and take that division.
That would be interesting.
There's still possibilities here, but the main key is if Tennessee loses this game and loses a following game within the subsequent weeks, they're going to really hurt themselves in playoff positioning.
Well, that's kind of been the constant with them. At one point they were the number 2 team in the league, or the AFC rather. Mm-hmm. Sorry. But I've been saying it for a couple weeks. They've been playing just good enough to win,
mm-hmm.
and teams that are really that are better than Tennessee have been playing worse, dropping their own stock.
Yeah.
Like i.e. the Ravens. They dropped from 4th to 8th.
Yeah.
Look at the Bills. They were they were number 1 and now they're number 7. Then you look at the Chargers. They were at one point, I believe they were like number 3. Now they're number 6. Every team that anybody could really argue being better than Tennessee just started playing worse, and they're playing just good enough to win games,
mm-hmm.
which works right now, but they are not ready for these playoffs, and it could just very well turn very sour for them, and they could lose.
So they have 2 games after this week, after the 49ers. They play the Miami Dolphins next week, and then they play the Houston Texans. Now,
so you call it a split.
You split it, but if you split it with the Dolphins, then the Dolphins,
you shit the bed against the Dolphins,
would have that tiebreaker over them,
and then the Dolphins sneak in.
So that's the thing. Tennessee can't be limping into these playoffs because they're just. You need momentum in order to win at least one game. And it's going to be tough because the Colts are right there, right behind them. So this game for Tennessee should feel like a playoff game for them.
It better. It absolutely better. We've been saying for a couple weeks now, every game is crucial from here on out for the teams that are in the bracket and in the hunt. Every game is a must-win for every team, AFC and NFC.
Yeah,
it's a must-win from here out, from 2 weeks ago to the end.
Every game is a must-win game, and it's crazy too because the Colts this coming week, they played the Arizona Cardinals. So both 2 teams from the AFC South both play NFC West teams, and so whatever happens between these 2 games is really going to
stir the pot.
It's really going to shake up both divisions.
Yeah.
So because Arizona's now on the decline, they lost to Detroit, just seemed that they just couldn't find their way by any means. But excuse me. But man, if San Fran picks it up and Arizona's slacking too, not
And
Arizona has not only San Francisco right behind their tail, but also the Rams.
Rams are right there.
The Rams are right there alongside them. And if the playoffs were to end today, it would be the Rams would have the 5th seed, the 49ers would have the 6th seed, and the Vikings would have the 7th seed. That would shake
Shake
everything up.
Because if San Francisco loses, and let's say Minnesota wins, now Minnesota goes up, and the 49ers drop to 7, and you have Philly right behind them.
Oh man,
this bracket is unbelievable. I love it. I love it.
You know what it is there's a lot of teams in the middle of the pack that are good, and I don't think anyone really wants to face any of these teams.
No.
On
both sides.
The Rams, the Niners, the Vikings, and then don't forget we still have the Eagles in the hunt.
The Eagles
too.
are right there.
Mm-hmm.
They're half a game behind Minnesota, man.
Yep.
But as for this game, we saw it last week that Detroit was able to run on Arizona. Now you're going against the best running back in the league.
Yeah. It's going to be real tough in regards to Arizona and Indy. But let me ask you do you have any final thoughts on San Francisco and Tennessee?
This is going to be a very interesting match. I feel like this could turn out to be one of the lower scoring games, depending on which Tennessee defense shows up. They're not going to put many points on the board because that San Francisco defense is going to tear up that offensive line. But going to be a definite fun game to watch, and I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the Indianapolis Colts and the Arizona Cardinals, and that's actually the second game that we wanted to talk about. And so, with that being said, this game has massive implications on it as well. The Colts are on a roll. The Colts are kind of like the 49ers. They're a team that's kind of in the wild card race, but no one really wants to face them.
No.
Because no one has an answer for Jonathan Taylor. He is right now the best running back in the league.
And it's not close.
And it's just hard for teams to stop him. So if Indy wins, Tennessee loses, there's going to be some good shaking up there. But if Arizona loses, with that being said, if Arizona loses, and they're going to fall.
And fall bad.
Right now, they have the lead in their division. They're sitting as, I believe, the 3rd seed. No, sorry.
They are 4th. They have dropped
seed.
from 2nd to 4th.
So, yeah, at one point in time, they were the 1st seed.
Well, yeah, but that was before Green Bay got it together.
Yeah, but right now, they're the 4th seed.
And declining.
And it's going to be really tough because who would have thought Detroit would come away with a win over Arizona? But if you look at the game, Arizona really had no answer for that running back, Craig Reynolds. And Craig Reynolds seems like an accountant's name. Like,
yeah.
It seems like this dude was just picked off the street and it's like, hey, you want to run? He's like, yeah, let's do it. But they have Jonathan Taylor this coming week.
What are you going to do?
The Cardinals are going to be up against the best running back in the league. I want to put this into context. Jonathan Taylor right now is so good that Arizona, their 2 top rushers that they have, their 2 top running backs, James Conner and Chase Edmonds, have a combined 1,150 rushing yards. Jonathan Taylor still outgains them by he has 1,500 yards. He has nearly 400 yards more than the 2 of them combined.
Disgusting.
It is absolutely disgusting. And it just really goes to show that you just got to get the right players. He was a low draft pick, and the Colts were like, we see something in you.
And they saw a diamond in the rough right there, man. Again, like you said, low draft pick, but he's a worker, and he's a blue-collar, hard-nosed north-south runner. Like I was saying, the new breed of power running coming into this league, defenses don't know what to do. And we were talking about this off air. This is bringing back a true fundamental on defense which is wrapping up and gang tackling. That little arm push. We've been playing rough touch football for a long time in the NFL, where it's hard pushes and I'm going to fall to the ground for my own safety. Offenses have done away with that. They've realized how soft the game has really gotten, and they're like, all right, we're going to bring contact to you now, and we're going to make you stop it. We're literally just saying we're better than you, and we're going to push you around. There's a lot of bully football going on again, and I love it.
You're absolutely right. It's forcing defenses to play fundamentally sound. And what do we mean by that is you see throughout the game, teams and players just lean in with their shoulder to make a tackle. That's not how it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to basically give them a big bear hug and just wrap your arms around them.
Well, not necessarily. When it comes to a fundamentally sound tackle, what you do is you get low, you wrap them up, and you drive and you lift and you try to bring them to the ground. If you try to go up here, that's really the issue has been falling in the league for years. Is that everyone's going for upper torso hits because everyone wants to get they want to hear the pop and they want to watch you leave.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we were talking about it off air. You're not finding 180-pound running backs anymore that happens to. These running backs are 200 pounds plus, 210, 225. Derrick Henry's 230. Najee Harris is 210.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting heavier in the backfield. So what you have to do is you have to wrap up. And when you don't wrap up, you're going to get thrown around. Jonathan Taylor is 227 pounds. You cannot hit him in the torso. You have to hit him in the waist or lower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to do it within reason of the rules of the league. You can't hit him below the knees. You can't hit him with your face mask. You have to get him clean. Fundamentally sound tackling on a 227-pound man is the only way you're going to get him to the ground. And one person's not enough. Gang tackling is another fundamental.
It's also, I think, what the true emphasis is wrapping up. And to make sure that you're not just leaning in with your shoulder, because if you just go in and lean with your shoulder, you're just taking your momentum, and you could just clip your own guy at a certain point. And that's what Detroit did. There was a play where there was a screen pass to James Conner, and a Detroit cornerback came in and with his shoulder and clipped his own guy,
who was a 300+ pound defensive tackle. And now that is the epitome of what you don't do. And the reason why he hit his own player, you can see it. It's clear as day. He's looking straight at the turf. He has no idea where he's going. He's running and hoping to hit something. And he hit something, but it wasn't the right person, and James Conner took off for another 12. It was in the
same jersey color as he was.
But he didn't know. He was looking He was looking at the ground.
He was just looking at the turf.
So you're not going to hit anything looking at the ground when people are running full speed.
So I got to say, it's going to be very tough for Arizona to stop Jonathan Taylor, because not even Belichick could stop Jonathan Taylor.
Nobody can stop Jonathan Taylor.
So, just random question. Levy, do you think that he can get 2,000 yards this year with 3 games left?
I do. And I think it would be something to behold if we saw 2 different running backs get 2,000 yards within 2 seasons. Again, that would be such a breath of light for what is coming and what is here in the league now. The league is in good hands when it comes to running the ball and quarterback. Quarterback and running back, we're good for years to come when it comes to talent.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of talent in the league, and it's just so great because on all the different teams, on every team, there's talent that you could just see. And I got to say, for this Indianapolis Colts game and this Arizona Cardinals, this is going to be a matchup where on any given play, there's just so much talent between these two teams on the field all at once, where you just have playmakers on both sides of the ball, and they're just going to be at such odds with one another. I can't wait to see the chess match between Kyler Murray and Darius Leonard going right on that turf, where it's like he's going to quarterback the offense and Darius Leonard's going to quarterback the defense.
Yeah.
And you just see it, and it's going to be an incredible game with huge implications to it. this is one of those games I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I'm really looking forward to this game, but also on to Arizona's side. If they win, man, I'm pretty sure they clinch.
Not yet. Not yet.
I don't know, man. If they go 11-4, they win 11-4. That's that. Oh, that's right, because the Rams are right there still.
The Rams are right there.
They would have to lose.
Yep, and the Niners are right there, right behind them too.
Yep. They would have to lose as well.
So if Arizona wants to win their division, they have to win at least this game, because going forward, it's going to be really tough for them. If they're again like Tennessee, a team that's just kind of walking into the playoffs, you're just asking to get eliminated in wild card weekend,
right? And if that happens to Arizona, that would be so unfortunate
because they started off so hot this year.
Yeah, they started out magical. It was unbelievable what they were doing.
But any final thoughts on this game, Chris Paul?
Kind of like a melting pot. I kind of smell something here. This is going to be cool. This is going to be a really hard physical game. This is where you're actually going to probably see some of the best fundamental football come out from both teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because this is another chess match. So you're going to have to bring your best, and you know the slightest mistake, either team can just take off.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But with that being said, let's move on to the third game we wanted to talk about, which absolutely feels like a playoff game, and that is between the two teams currently in the wild card standings in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. That is a really good matchup right there.
You say it feels like a playoff game. That's because it is a playoff game. Every game now until the playoffs actually start, they should feel like playoff games to every fan that watches football. The playoff bracket and the league is so wide open. Out of context right now, only the Green Bay Packers have clinched their division. Every other division is open. So every game, every fan of every team should be at their seat, save for 5 teams that are out, but we'll see. So every game should feel like a playoff game from here out.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. Every game that we've talked about so far feels like a playoff game.
So, but what are your thoughts on this Rams-Vikings game?
I love the idea of this game. I want to see what that Rams defense can do. I really want to see Matt Stafford in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see the Rams play a full game. But, you know, Minnesota's kind of picking up some momentum here. You know, they kind of just stepped into the bracket. They're number 7. They're half a game in front of Philly, so they really have to keep moving at the pace that they're going. And if they beat the Rams, pretty sure they would do a place swap, and they would go to 5.
Well, no, the Rams actually would have a game advantage over them.
Okay.
So if say the Rams lost this game, the Rams would drop to 10-5, and the Vikings would move up to 8-7. So they would still actually 2 games ahead.
They're 2 games ahead.
So it would definitely shake up the wild card, but it would really hurt the Vikings if they were to lose this game.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
I gotta say, they have a lot of things going against them this game. And what do I mean by that? They have actually the 30th ranked defense going into this game.
It's rough.
There's 32 teams in the league, so they have a bottom 3 defense. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, second to last worst in the league.
I know.
Unbelievable.
But they also do have a couple things going for them. Kirk Cousins has probably his best year so far.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing absolutely unbelievable. And their line is actually protecting him well, and that's allowing him to give the ball to his playmakers, such as Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, but I think Thielen is currently out right now.
I think so.
But with that being said, Minnesota is actually the second fewest sacks allowed on their quarterback throughout the season.
Wow.
So that is pretty impressive for the Vikings. And again, they were in a lot of close games earlier in the year. There were a couple games that they could have won,
mm-hmm.
like that game against Dallas,
where they definitely could have won.
Where
that
Dallas was Dakless, but Minnesota didn't win. One thing I do have to keep in mind for this game is actually 1:00 in the afternoon. So this game is not a primetime game, which means that Kirk Cousins is probably going to be out to play.
And he's probably going to play one of his better games. I agree with that because he just can't
I was a little concerned of how he played against Chicago on Monday, but honestly, it just seemed like one of those defensive slog type of games
Yeah,
where honestly you just make the plays that you have to and just don't turn the ball over. And I think he only had just one interception, but that's not too bad. But it's going to happen if the Bears give you the ball 3 times.
right.
So you
It's
get
gonna happen.
3 extra possessions to make something happen. So I got to say, the Vikings are getting it done, and they're getting it done in spite of their defense because their offense is absolutely ridiculous. But on the flip side, that Rams offense is
Something to behold.
special. And I want to point out one player in particular on that Rams offense, Cooper Cup.
Made history, man.
He he's probably going to finish this year as the Triple Crown winner in receiver. What do I mean by that? Where he is the leader in his respective position with the highest amount of receptions, the highest amount of yards, and the most touchdowns
That's
for a
sick.
wide receiver. That let that sink in. This guy was going to be he if the Rams keep up this pace and just keep feeding him the ball, he is going to be the last player wide receiver to have a triple crown, Sterling Sharp.
Wow. You want to know who else he's also in the same name bracket as now? You want to know who he passed in Rams history for most catches in a season? Isaac Bruce.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. So he's coming up into some real high level names now, man. I love Cooper Cup.
You know what it is? It's people can focus on OBJ as much as you want.
Do what you want.
Cooper Cup is getting the ball, and there's nothing you could do to stop him.
Right.
So and I'll be honest, we talked about the Vikings a couple times throughout the year, and uh, there was one thing that I noticed that I pointed out to you where the Vikings cornerbacks cannot play man coverage.
No, absolutely not.
That's why they play a lot of zone coverage. But when it comes to one-on-ones against really good wide receivers, i.e., in the Dallas game, Amari Cooper just bullied his way into a victory.
Yeah.
Those cornerbacks for the Vikings are going to be in a heap of trouble
Oh, they're in so much trouble.
this year. This game. So Harrison Smith needs to, if they could clone him, that would probably be the best option. But since cloning it's not perfected yet. Harrison Smith is this free safety for the Vikings. He's gonna either have to go. Do you help out double Cooper Cup, which is probably the case, or you leave OBJ one-on-one on the outside? And either way, that's a loose scenario right there.
That's a very, very tricky scenario. That's playing with fire no matter what you do. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of OBJ, but you can't leave him open, especially with the weak one-on-one coverage that Minnesota brings. You know, OBJ is going to be open this game. You know, it's a matter of will he be thrown to? You know, my guess is not many times. It's going to Cooper Cup. That's just where it's going.
It's going to Cooper Cup, and it's also going to go into the belly of Sonny Michel.
Yes,
He has actually really found a good home in LA and a good fit.
I agree.
Sean McVay is really utilizing him very well. And for those of you who are not familiar, Sonny Michel was the running back for the Patriots for the long time when they went on their second dynasty run.
Yes.
So he was there for a couple Super Bowls. He has a couple rings under his belt, but man, whew.
You see, and that's what I like about Los Angeles is that they didn't have any main brand names come into the league. They come into their brand. Everybody in the league, save for now OBJ and Matt Stafford, because they're seasoned vets that came in to try and make a difference. I don't know how OBJ fits in that bracket for them, but they all kind of made a name for themselves in LA. You know, Sonny Michel, he got his rings with the Patriots, but that was all Tom Brady and Gronk.
All Tom Brady, Gronk, and James White. He was behind James
Right.
White too.
He was underneath James White. You know, so he's making a name for himself in LA. Matt Stafford, he is now playing his best year because he has his best team. We've been saying it since the beginning. Cooper Cup. Who was Cooper Cup before a couple years ago? You know, he made himself in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald, he made himself in Los Angeles. So that I like seeing that where it's homegrown stars from one franchise. It's
Yep.
the loyalty of Los Angeles that's going to get them to where they want to be.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't agree with the loyalty because I think they're also acquiring pieces from other teams that are just fitting right. And I think that Sean McVay, because there's a lot of players on this Rams team that are not homegrown. They have more probably if it may be a 50-50 split. But even
Sure.
still, the players that they have are the best players for Sean McVay to utilize.
And that's where I go and say with the loyalty because they're loyal to the
McVay.
brand that is LA football.
I would say McVay is over
They're
over
of
the
course
brand.
they're loyal to Sean McVay. They've all completely bought into him as well. But the brand of LA football is Sean McVay.
Yeah,
So you can't be loyal to one and not the other.
I gotta say, for the Rams' sake, keep going with Sean McVay because he's just one of those young coaches that, hey, the longer he's there on your team,
The better you're going to play.
the better your team is going to be. And Sean McVay is let him do whatever he wants, and I'm with you. I do want to see Matt Stafford in the playoffs, and I want to see what he can do. But before we even get to the playoffs, they got to get through the Vikings.
Yes, they do. It's going to be a very interesting game. I'm going to throw that one in the hat for possible game of the week. That's going to be a good game.
Are you sure the next game we're about to talk about isn't going to be the game of the week?
It's possible.
So we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. We're going to be talking about a little bit more AFC playoffs than NFC. So right off the bat, this game is for the division.
100%. This game is for the division.
This game, it may be the game of the week, but more so on the defensive side. The Bills, if you look at the Bills and the Patriots statistically, there's a lot of statistics where they are basically right behind one another. Where defensive efficiency, their running game, their running attack, I believe Buffalo has the 12th ranked running attack and the Patriots have the 13th ranked running attack. So there's a lot of stats where they're very similar in it. But there's even surprisingly, as much as we think is like the Bills to have like a bad defense against the run, they do. They're a little weak against the run. But the Patriots actually have the same ranking. They're the same exact ranking as the Bills when it comes to against the run. I think they're like they're both the 17th team to against the run.
They're tied for 17th in run defense.
But there is a stat that really separates them, and it's their usage rate throwing the ball. Buffalo loves to throw the ball more than the Patriots. Now, that doesn't sound surprising by any metric, but when you're talking about a team that's throwing the ball more frequently than they're running it, that means there's a lot of chance for third down conversions to slip, first down conversions to slip, where if a team that's throwing the ball as much as Buffalo, every possession needs to count because you're giving away a lot of time of possession with every incomplete pass you throw.
Mm-hmm.
So time of possession is going to be key, and I think that Belichick is still going to stick with his game plan of running the ball on the Bills. But I think this time around, he's going to let Mac Jones throw it just a little bit more, probably a little bit more.
I would hope
than
so.
3 times.
I would hope so. I would absolutely hope so. But, New England has a formula. For all we know, Belichick could be saving his arm for the playoffs because he knows for a fact they're going to the playoffs. New England's going. It's just the way it is. It's just a matter of if they get a first round bye or not.
Or if they're a wild card or
right. But they're
division
going.
Winners.
They're going. New England's going to be there. So he might be holding out on Mac Jones' arm for the last couple of games. I would hope to see more than 3 attempts on this defense, and not have a 90% run percentage. But we'll see, But I want to see what that defense can do against Josh Allen. And I also want to see the coaching bit that's going to be because I really hope that Buffalo learns to trim the fat and trim the fat quick of those late fourth quarter mistakes that they've been making since like week 7 or 8. They've been showing up where they run. They'll go for it on fourth down when they don't need to. They'll do a third and long run play when they should have passed it. They'll do something. They'll have a dumb penalty. Like, just things that shouldn't happen in the fourth quarter are happening to Buffalo, and that's why they've dropped since from one of the best teams in the league to now they could very well play themselves out of the playoffs.
They very well could. But so far they're still alive. And right now at this point in time they are actually the 7th seed. So they're still in it. But if they lose this game to the Patriots, not only would the Patriots essentially clinch that division, because they would have both games won over Buffalo. Buffalo would probably drop out of the playoff bracket.
Yeah,
because
making way for Miami.
That's the thing too, is Miami is slowly creeping in to this playoff picture. Now in the hunt, we have the Ravens, the Steelers, the Raiders, Browns, and Dolphins. But all those teams are still possible. And if the Bills, they slip up against the Patriots, that really leaves an opening for another team to get in.
Yeah. I'll see you week 18. You don't sleep on that.
Yeah, we got week 18, baby. But nevertheless, but still talking Bills Patriots. You know what it is? Belichick just really has the Bills' number. He just knows how to exploit the Bills each time that they get it. Now, I don't think that he's going to run the ball 46 times and only pass it 3 times.
I really would hope not.
I don't think that's going to happen again. But I do think he's going to lean on Damian Harris and Stevenson as their running backs. Damian Harris is one of those, again, those physical running backs.
200-plus pounds.
Who brings power backing to the league. And he's actually one of my favorite players to watch.
Love watching him run.
He's just one cut gone.
Yeah.
He's just like a little smaller version of Derrick Henry.
He's like a small Adrian Peterson.
He's like kind of in the same mold as Najee Harris. Power running. Yeah. North south. So, but man, it's going to be really tough for both the Bills and the Patriots, because both defenses have the number 1 defense and the number 3 defense in the league. So it's really tough. So if Buffalo loses, other teams may be able to sneak in. But if New England loses, then
not much changes.
Then they may swap with Buffalo. It would come down to division wins at that point, because they would split the series between each other, and then it would come down to division wins. So, but with that being said, the Patriots are still going to be in it. If the Patriots are within the wild card bracket, they're probably going to stay within there.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, but if the Bills lose this game, I don't see them staying in the wild card bracket.
I don't think them staying in that fight,
especially with Miami just winning games, winning,
playing well. Steelers are playing well. We're playing well enough to, we're playing well enough to win. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to Joe Hayden for making that unbelievable play last week. I'm sorry, I had to. I'm sorry. Shout out Joe Hayden.
We're talking Bills Patriots here, my son. You're off there thinking about Joe Hayden. It was a great pick, though.
Yeah, you got that right. You got that right.
Oh man! But with that being said, there's just the AFC runs deep, and the fact that it's still anyone's game. No team in the AFC has clinched their division or clinched a playoff spot.
Wide open.
So the teams that we talk about now,
it's all hypothetical.
It's all in 3 weeks' time. It could be completely different.
And I would love everything about it.
So
honestly, especially with how this season is going, I would love it, everything about it.
So I see this as a low-scoring affair, but this is going to be a game played with playoff intensity throughout.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a barn burner of a match, man. This is going to be insane.
Oh man, but I'm really excited. So now let's move on to the final game that we wanted to discuss, and that is the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. Now we were just talking about Miami because they're sneaking in and they're on a 6-game winning streak. Unbelievable. They were 1-7 before, and they just kept winning and winning and winning and winning. And I gotta say, within their that win streak, they're allowing an average of 13 points per opponent. It's absolutely just crazy to think about that they are playing incredible defense. And I guess that really goes to show how Brian Flores really learned from Belichick
Yeah.
and how to really construct a defense. And
Construct a team, really. He's constructing a really stout team. The main formula that we always talk about, I'm sorry to cut you off,
Mhm.
it's solid defense, a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over, and a solid run game.
He's really just missing the run game.
Right. And it's coming. The running back that they signed for the one game, he's now on the starting roster. They picked him up from afar. I can't remember the name that he has. Um I sent it to our friend Travis, who is a Dolphins fan, off air. I can't think of the name offhand.
We have the power of the internet, Chris Palmer.
Yes, we do.
But with that being said, I do also want to give a shout out to two Dolphins players that are really making waves and I think a little underrated. Uh, Jalen Phillips and Emmanuel Agba for the Dolphins lead lead the team in sacks with 8.5 for Phillips and 7 for Agba. So
Hmm.
those are two guys who are getting it done. Phillips is a rookie, by the way. So he's a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
So
No.
but man, Miami's coming up quick.
Hmm.
Okay.
We'll have to confirm as to who is the starting running back now. But
Well, I know that they still have Gaskin.
I believe he was out on COVID protocol though.
He might be, but nevertheless, that seems to be the only missing piece for Miami. Obviously, we talked about it before. They do still need some defensive players, specifically a middle linebacker as well, to really cover a lot of zone areas. But they also do need to invest in a running back. Uh, Aside from that, I like Tua. I like the way Tua's
I
been
like
playing.
Tua a lot.
Tua, in 10 games that he's played so far this year, he has 2,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Now, that's not great, but it's not detrimental. He's not the reason that they lost games earlier on in the season.
No, him not being there was the reason that they lost
Exactly.
games,
And
and that says a lot.
they had some close games against the Falcons and against the Jaguars, where those could have been winnable games, and it could have been Miami could be right there alongside Buffalo and New England
But they're
for the
right there.
division. They are. They're just a little bit behind because they're right now they're 7-7, and the Bills are 8-6, and the Patriots are what 9-5.
Well, think about that for just a second. Think about who you just put Miami into the conversation with. You put them in with not only two division rivalries, but two historic division leaders. Miami is one of those historically weak teams in the division for those. The AFC East, it's always been New England, number one. And then the Bills came. And then now it's the Jets who are going to sit at number 4 pretty for a while. You know, Miami is right there now, and that happened 3 seasons, I think, since Brian Flores
Yeah,
is there. Brian Flores, this is his third
this
season,
is
right?
his third season with
Three
Miami. Yep.
seasons, he turned them into playoff contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love to see it.
So
Two pieces, and they'll be potential division winners.
now it's crazy too that we think Miami they're 7-7, and a chance for them to win their division, and a chance for them to get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Saints are also 7-7,
But they have no quarterback.
but the NFC is a completely different animal than the AFC.
Yes.
So the Saints have a little bit tougher of a road to get in there. Miami just has to keep, I guess, ticking boxes and has to wait for a team in the wild card round to slip. That doesn't seem too bad. There's the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bills. So if one of those teams loses 2 games and Miami just keeps winning their 2 games, it's good.
Very good chance.
It's a good chance. But the Saints, they sit 7-7 as well, and I don't think there's any hope for them to win their division. Now, they technically still can because the Bucks are within their division. The Bucks are
Mhm.
10-4. Theoretically, if the Saints win out and the Bucks lose out, the Saints can get the division.
Well, I wouldn't see so hypothetical with all those injuries that happened in Tampa last week, man. That is just a possibility.
I it
I don't
I
see it,
I don't
but
see
you
it. It's
gotta keep
possible.
the possibility there.
The possibility is there, and that's why I say like they can still theoretically get in there. But
The
Saint
Eagles and the Vikings are fighting too hard.
exactly, that's the thing. The Saints really are against not just Miami this game. They're against Miami this game, but they really are against the Vikings and the Eagles, as well as the Niners too, because the Saints, they're trying to sneak in. Miami is just slowly creeping in. They're trying to get in there as well, but there's a little bit more faith in Miami because they're a more complete team. The Saints are not a complete team by any means, and you could tell that their lack of quarterback really shows. They have the 30th passing yards per game in the league. That's crazy to think about, and they're also 28th in passing first downs. They they cannot really pass this ball. Alvin Kamara, he's great and he can run the ball, but he can't be your only option.
No, you can't do it. And the lack of quarterback is going to be their ultimate downfall, especially going into this week. Because again, he's playing really well. People tried to sell him short because of his injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is injured, but there's a reason why he went through a dislocated hip injury in college and was still drafted in the first round. That still has to attest to something.
You know what? I like Tua, and I think that a lot of people were a little impatient on him this year because like he got injured, yes, but since then he's taken care of himself.
Right.
And not only has he been taking care of himself, but he's also been winning games.
And playing better week in and week out.
And so I got to say, even though last week they played against the Jets, they did have to come back and win that game.
And that's a must win for them because that's a division. That's a
Yes,
division game, so you have to win that game.
if Miami were to lose that game against the Jets, and it was quite possible too, it would have really hurt their playoff chances. But winning that game against the Jets, it puts them in better standings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're looking ahead and they're thinking, there's a good chance.
There is just a chance. You know, again, the playoff picture is wide open in the AFC. So the Dolphins' chances aren't as slim as everyone thought that it was gonna be. They have the Titans and then the Patriots following this week. So again, if the Titans continue the way they're doing, they may not walk away from the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Dolphins defense could absolutely just tear them up if they come in and play one-dimensional. And the Patriots, you could almost call that a split, but it all depends on the Mac Jones that shows up. You know, if Mac Jones doesn't show up and Tua shows up, Dolphins could win out and see themselves in a playoff spot.
That's the thing too. It's like if you're the Dolphins, who do you want this upcoming weekend? Do you want the Bills to win so that the Patriots you can kind of get in close earshot of the Patriots? Or do you want the Bills to lose and then for you to kind of get in there? Now remember, Buffalo beat Miami twice, both times this year. So if they were to have the same record, Buffalo would be ahead of Miami.
Right, with the tiebreaker.
So
You kind of need the Patriots to win. You know, you need them to win to drop down the stock of Buffalo. But, you know, again, you have to win this week. You absolutely have to win this week.
and so that Miami Dolphins and New Orleans Saints game, that's on the Monday night game. So that's going to be a primetime game. And I think honestly, whoever wins this game has a better chance to make the playoffs. But whoever loses this game really hurts their chances. I think if the Saints lose this game, they actually eliminate themselves from contention of their division. So they would only be able to make the playoffs via wild card. So the Saints really need to stay alive. The Dolphins, they just kind of need to stay relevant. And I
Right.
think there's a little difference there because Miami just kind of has to wait for teams to fall, but their division is still possible. They could still win their division. Uh, New Orleans does not look, even though that was a big win for them against the Buccaneers, and it New Orleans is one of those teams that they're just a 50-50 team. You don't know what you're going to get out of them each week.
And they've
Hell,
been since the beginning.
hell, they could lose to Carolina, but or but but they could beat the Patriots and they could beat the Bucks. And so
Right.
it's they can beat great teams, but they can't do it consistently. And they can't do it consistently with Taysom Hill.
No.
And as much as I like Taysom Hill and I wanted him to succeed, he is not the future in New Orleans.
No, and I'm right there with you. I kind of thought he was. I had a lot. There was a lot of promise when you saw him. He was exciting. He was like a wow factor that you didn't see in New Orleans because of the general that was Drew Brees. Drew Brees was kind of boring to watch. He didn't really do much that was too impressive. He could scramble. His big impressive thing was how undersized he was and how well he could place the ball.
Yeah, he was really
You know,
accurate.
he was the precision. He was the epitome of a precision passer.
Yeah.
Where he could just throw the ball into your hands no matter where you were. So that's someone who is in depth in football. That's what they would find exciting is ball placement. But Taysom Hill is something that anybody can be excited to watch. A quarterback that does jukes, a quarterback that hurdles, a quarterback that lowers his shoulder. Look at Josh Allen. He's exciting. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot heavier, and a lot more talented. Taysom Hill, he will not be the future. It's kind of apparent that New Orleans is probably going to look at a quarterback in the draft.
If not the draft, then
Free agency.
Free agency. I don't know what the plan is with Jameis Winston. So he is also a question mark going into this offseason. But I got to say, I am a little bit more confident in Miami's chances to make the playoffs than I am for the Saints.
I agree.
So, but with that being said, do you have any final thoughts on this game?
No, I think this game is going to be another interesting one. But I'm excited for Miami, and I want to see what they can do in the postseason.
Okay. So with that being said, we are going to make our picks for this coming week in Week 16. So Chris Palmer, you ready to pick some games?
Yes, sir. We can go ahead. The first game that we got on the board is San Francisco and Tennessee.
The Thursday night game. I'm going to take San Fran. I like the way that they've been playing. They have the momentum, and it's really just hard to stop either one of their receiving threats in Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle. So I think it's going to be a tough task for Tennessee to handle.
You see, I'm going over like the tail of the tape in my head, like player for player, like Tannehill versus Jimmy G, running backs versus the running backs, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel versus the safeties. The only difference, the only spot that I really see Tennessee falling short is their lack of middle linebacker. Really, if they had a linebacker that can hold up to Kittle for the entirety of the game, I know that's a large order. At the end of the day, Kittle's going to get his. But if you could keep him controlled and contained, this game would have been a completely different game. So I'm going to agree with you with San Francisco. But, again, don't sleep on the drafting process for Tennessee. Like, they might look at the right places. I'm hoping they look for the right places.
I don't know. So tell me, do you think that the end of their season is close in sight?
If they keep playing at the way they're playing and the way better teams are starting to play, like teams coming up through the ranks, yeah, I could almost see them. Again, they could be another one of those teams that very simply play themselves out of the playoffs.
I could agree with that. So let's move on to, we have two games on Christmas Day.
That we do.
So the first game, Christmas Day, is Cleveland and Green Bay.
Yeah. Who do you got for that?
You know what it is? Well, I'm going Christmas colors, baby. We're going Aaron Rodgers in that green. He's going to be Christmas tree green, lighting it up on the Browns because, honestly, the Browns are going to be lucky to be recovering from their COVID outbreak. And Aaron Rodgers, with his turf toe and as bad as his toe is, he's still putting up points. and he's still winning games. So I'm going to take the Packers to win over the Browns.
I respect that. I'm going to agree with you, and I need Cleveland to lose again, so the Pittsburgh Steelers need to win, so we can just keep moving up the ranks. I'm going to go Green Bay. Green Bay is the better team. They're obviously the healthier team. And yeah, that's going to be that. The second Christmas Day game that we have is Arizona and Indy.
The game that we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually going to take the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think the Cardinals have an answer for Jonathan Taylor. And I just like the way that Colts defense is too compared to that Arizona defense. So I'm going to take Indy to win that game.
I see that, but I'm going to go Arizona. I feel like coming off of the loss in Detroit, that Arizona is going to come in again with. We've seen it where they come off a bad loss, they have a nasty taste in their mouth, and they go back true to form. They reform themselves. It's unfortunate that you had that pretty poor of an outing against Detroit. But I see Kyler Murray. He's going to come back. He's going to regroup. Yeah, it's going to be tough trying to stop Jonathan Taylor, but I think Arizona is going to be able to match where they fall in stopping him. They're going to be able to match him for yards and intensity.
Okay.
So moving on to the next game, it is the New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So this is going into Sunday's slate of games. So I'm gonna take the Jets. Fuck it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jets too. I will never. You won't see me
God.
going Jacksonville. I have no reason to vote Jacksonville ever. We're just gonna move on. The next Sunday game is the Giants in Philly. Now this one's a little more important.
Yeah, Giants lose, they're eliminated. I mean, granted, we kind of figured that they already were, but statistically and theoretically, there's still a chance for them to make it. I don't think they make it. I'm taking Philly to win it and Philly to go 8-7 and creeping up in that playoff bracket.
Yep, I'm right there with you, man. I'm excited to see Philly. Philly is on a head of steam right now, and they're just one of those harassing teams that is like a thorn in the side of the competitors, and they could just very well go a little bit deeper and cause a little bit more pain and wind up in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
On to a little bit more of an important game, which is LA and Minnesota.
Oh man, who do you take? Who are you taking for this one?
Now, again, we're gonna backtrack to Philly. If they win, they also need Minnesota to lose
to get into that
bracket. Yeah. So for that, I'm going to give my hopes for the Rams to beat Minnesota. I feel like Minnesota is truthfully the better team on both sides of the ball. I see LA beating Minnesota.
I don't think Minnesota is the better team. Oh, you say the Rams are the better team on both sides of the ball? Okay, I thought you said Minnesota was the better team. But honestly, the one stat that really scared me was the Vikings have the ranked 30th defense in the league. That is not good. Especially, I could see the cornerbacks just not playing one-on-one coverage. And it's going to be a really tall task for them against Cooper Kupp. So I'm going to go with the Rams as well. But I think it's going to be a close game. It's a 1 o'clock game, so we're probably going to see the better Kirk Cousins play. But, man, I'm taking the Rams.
All right. Moving on to the second LA team. They are playing Houston.
I'll take those Chargers.
I'll take those chances with the Chargers. I want to see, from the Chargers specifically, I want to see them clean themselves up. They're their team that fell really hard from where they were in the beginning to where they are now. This is a cleanup game. You got to clean it up to get ready for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
We're gonna move on to Detroit and Atlanta. Does Detroit make another harassing win?
No, I'm taking Atlanta.
I'm going to go Atlanta too, but again, I'm going to look a little bit more in depth into Detroit and see just if that was a flicker or if that could actually be a beacon of hope for what happened last week. So I'm going to take a little bit closer of a look at Detroit than we've had. I'm not going to really bat an eye as to what's going on, but I'm going to start concentrating a little bit.
But you're taking Atlanta to win?
I'm going to take Atlanta to win, yes. Moving on to Tampa and Carolina.
Brady, he's gonna just get back on track and just win. So I'm taking Tampa to win.
Cam's gonna get Brady'd. Yeah, Tampa's gonna win. They're the better team. Carolina is falling on their face yet again because of the same old problems. Gonna move on to Chicago and Seattle.
See, Seattle's gonna win, but it's not gonna matter.
Right, this game don't matter. There's a lot of
Chicago's eliminated from the playoffs, so like they don't really matter in the standings. But Seattle is still technically alive. But for
it
Justin
doesn't look
Fields, a
good.
rookie, to go into Seattle, that's a tough place to play. So I'm going to take Seattle to win that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Seattle as well. You know, Chicago being out, I'm pretty sure now they're just playing for the formalities and to stay healthy. So Seattle having a slight hope of making it. You know, it's definitely not big. You know, if it's anything, it's bleeding out on the floor. Their chances of making the playoffs.
They got to win out,
and everybody else has to lose.
It just ain't happening.
It's just not gonna happen. So I'm gonna go Seattle to win this game, but it's not gonna be a pretty game by any means. It's gonna be ugly on every side of the ball.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to my Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Now this game means a lot for both teams. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh, but
Of course you are.
of course I'm gonna go. It's the end of the season, and this is the last ditch effort. This is definitely Ben's last season. Got to go out in a blaze of glory. Seems like the engines are starting to cut out a little bit. But listen, if we're gonna go down, this bitch is gonna go down flying.
Well, you know what it is I think sometimes it's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them.
Right.
And I think that if the Steelers were to have played the Chiefs in the month of October, you probably had a better chance.
Oh yeah, because they had no defense then.
But since November, their defense has allowed, on average, 11 points a game.
Mm-hmm. And we're one of the lowest scoring teams in the league as it is.
So the Chiefs are pretty much right back on track. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to beat you guys and really put a damper on your playoff hopes. But that really makes it close for Week 18. It's going to set it up.
It's going to set the tone, because I really feel like, and you and I have talked about this off air, that it's going to be when you're in that game for the both of us. And there wouldn't be any other poetic justice.
And if that's going to be Roethlisberger's last game,
oh my God, such a sentimental game.
It's too fitting. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
We're going to move on to Denver and Los Angeles.
Las Vegas.
Sorry.
So I gotta say, both teams aren't really that good. But man, one thing that we forgot to mention in the recap was Teddy Bridgewater had a disgusting injury, and we wish him the best and in a speedy recovery. That's scary for anyone to have an injury like Teddy Bridgewater like that.
Updates said that he was doing okay. He was going to leave the hospital. I think he spent 2 days in the hospital. I believe
spinal injury, right?
It was a major concussion with a minor neck injury.
Ooh.
So he was unconscious, I believe, for a little while. When he left, he was carted off the field with a neck brace. His helmet was still on. They had to take his face mask off because they were afraid to move his neck. Something that is so scary to watch because it's just so possible. And like we were saying, that this man has no sense of luck when it comes. Every time he starts playing well, catastrophe happens to him. And this is one of the worst things that could ever happen to a player. A neck injury on top of a head injury. It's tragic, and we really do hope for a speedy recovery. But with that being said, who do you have to win?
Yeah, I think in the absence of Teddy Bridgewater, I think Vegas is going to win. It's going to be in the same vein as how they won against Cleveland on Monday.
Just the healthier team.
They're just going to be the healthier team, and it's going to be a low-scoring affair. So I'm taking the Raiders to win that game.
Yeah, I'm going to hope that the Raiders win this game. But on the same sense, I kind of want to see if Denver can come together and basically play for Teddy Bridgewater. He had them playing real well for a while. And then, of course, catastrophe happens. So I want to see how they come together as a locker room and a unit and finish the season out for their team, for the franchise and for their player.
I also want to keep into consideration that both the Broncos and the Raiders are both 7-7 right now. So
Yes.
whoever wins this game has a better chance to be in the playoffs, but whoever loses is pretty much eliminated at this point. So, with that being said, I'm taking the Raiders.
Okay. So we're going to move on to one of probably the more important games of the week, Dallas and Washington. Who are you taking?
Man,
this is a tough one.
I'm taking Dallas. And Washington is still recovering from their COVID outbreak. But even if, with the COVID outbreak aside, their defense has not been playing well. Now, granted, the Dallas offense has not been playing well either, but that Dallas defense has been stepping up too.
Yeah.
And honestly, who do I trust a little bit more? I trust Ron Rivera than Mike McCarthy, but when it comes to the specific units of the team, I think Dallas has the better offense, but they're just in a slump. And I think Dallas also has the better defense.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm going to take Dallas to win over Washington. That is the Sunday night primetime game. If Dallas wins that, then I believe
they would clinch.
They clinch their division. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be the second team to clinch. And only the NFC, still the AFC is wide open.
Yep.
Keeping that in mind. Moving on to the final game, which is Miami versus New Orleans.
So wait. Who are you taking, Dallas or Washington?
Dallas. Sorry.
You taking Dallas?
I'm taking Dallas, yeah. They're the better team, inside and out. That defense is something that we haven't seen in years come out of Dallas. Micah Parsons, people. If you haven't caught on, Micah Parsons is the guy. He's the guy to watch for the full. You want the full experience of who a defenseman's supposed to be, you watch Micah Parsons.
Number 11 on Dallas.
Absolutely.
And number 7, Trayvon Diggs. So look for 7-11.
If you don't know, that's on you at this point.
7-11 because they're everywhere.
Because they are everywhere. That's a very, very good analogy. Now we're going to move on to the last game of the week, which is Miami and New Orleans. What do you got?
Now, again, it's really broken down to who do I trust more? And, okay, so offensive unit. I trust Miami's offensive unit than New Orleans. As much as I love Alvin Kamara, he's one of my favorite players to watch. He can't get it done if Taysom Hill is the quarterback.
No.
So I trust Miami's offense. Defensively, I'm kind of split because the Saints have a really good defense, and as well as does Miami. So, you know what? I'm going to give the edge to the Saints defense there because they, again, last week, they showed that they could shut out the best passing team in the league, Tom Brady and the Bucs. But that really comes down to also now coaching. Brian Flores and Sean Payton.
That's a good matchup. I like that matchup a lot. It's a really good
matchup. And although I may trust Sean Payton historically, I just don't think he has the personnel against what Brian Flores has constructed in Miami. So I'm going to take Miami to win this game and continue their win streak and stay alive in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a really tough place to play in New Orleans because the energy of New Orleans is going to be very, very disruptive. But I like what I'm seeing out of Miami. And I like Tua, and I think that also he's the only lefty quarterback in the league. So that might.
There's only 5 of us in the world, mate.
Lefties don't exist. They're just right-handed people seeking attention.
Oh, stop it. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I love what Brian Flores has done to Miami in such a short amount of time. Again, I like Sean Payton as a coach. He's very smart. He's very meticulous, and he's very to the book. But he's been the same his entirety of his career. You know, it's who can I trust to give the ball to? And right now you can only trust Alvin Kamara. And that, I feel, is going to be the downfall to that it's getting ever stronger, the defense in Miami. It really is. It's just getting stronger. Tua is getting stronger as a player. His body's finally starting to listen. He's listening to his body. He's doing things that he could be doing better. So Good signs in Miami, red flags in New Orleans. I'm going with Miami. Um, so there you have it, guys. There are our picks for the week. Leave a comment. Let us know if you agree, disagree. Give us any intake that you want. Feel free to give a like, subscribe as well. We really hope you guys have a very happy and safe holiday season this year. We will be here next week to talk about it. Hope you're excited for the week because I know we are.
Absolutely.
Have a good holiday, guys.
Be safe and have a happy holidays, everybody.